Hey, thanks for dropping by and checking out this message. These lessons come from our Sunday gatherings at Victory Christian Church in Franklin, Indiana. Our 5th through 8th graders meet at 9 or 10:30 a.m. and our high schoolers meet from 6 to 8 p.m. If you find that this content brings value to your life, then please consider subscribing and hitting that bell so that you can be notified when we upload our next message. Our hope is that this video brings more clarity into your life as to who God is and what He wants for you in light of who Jesus is and what He's done for you. Enjoy and have a great day.
Morning. How's everybody doing? Good. So in this series, we've been talking about two things that most of the world thinks are completely incompatible: faith and science. We've talked about some questions and how, and I think it's really interesting that as we've learned more, we've looked at it, when we approach science from the perspective of believing that God created all of it, we learn stuff about God by looking at the science. And that probably sounds really good. You're like, okay, yeah, we've been here a couple weeks, that sounds good. But you still have those lingering questions. Like, you're still like, I don't know. And I know some of you, based on the conversations that I've had with my guys the last couple of weeks at least, maybe you haven't had those questions yet. Those science questions where, what does this say about my faith? Or what does my faith say about this thing that I'm learning in my science class? Like, you haven't really gotten into evolution, you haven't gotten into all these, like the how the world was created, the Big Bang Theory, which is currently still under, they think the Big Bang, like the theory for how the universe was formed for the last 100 or so years has been the Big Bang Theory. Also, if you're familiar with the comedy on, I think it's ABC, NBC, I don't know, it just ended. But anyway, that's not actually true anymore. Science has decided that the Big Bang Theory did not happen the way that they think it did, which I think is awesome, because the Big Bang Theory isn't how God created the universe, so cool. But I always got stuck on the dinosaurs, because dinosaurs aren't really talked about in the Bible. And depending on which scientist or theologian you talk to, the Earth, written history only goes back about 6,000 years. We can verify that humans existed up until about 6,000 years ago. And then it gets a little murky. We're not really sure how much longer before that the Earth actually existed. Depending on which scientist or theologian you talk to, it's anywhere between 2,000 and 100, or 4 billion years, which is crazy. But I was talking to Jeff. A lot of you are probably familiar with Jeff McCree. I was talking to him between the services, actually, and he had some interesting things to say about the dinosaurs. In the book of Genesis and also the book of Psalms, there are two creatures mentioned, the behemoth and the leviathan, and those are just words for these giant creatures that couldn't be explained by, oh, that's the lion and that's the elephant, and oh yeah, that's the behemoth. Behemoth literally just means a giant creature that devours everything. That sounds like a dinosaur to me. So, maybe they do talk about dinosaurs in the Bible. But anyway, I digress. I'm getting off topic here. So I always had problems with explaining the dinosaurs. And maybe you haven't had that one moment, that one question that really shakes your faith. You haven't sat in science class. Maybe you've had something that's happened in your life that's okay, everything I know about God says this shouldn't happen like this. The big question that humanity has really had a hard time answering for a long time is, why do good things happen to, or why do bad things happen to good people? Also related to that, why do good things happen to bad people? But that's a story for a different day. And that was actually getting a little more into the theology of pre-Christianity. That was kind of how the world worked, and that's how most people believed the world worked until Jesus came along. The whole eye for the eye thing, and if you do good things, then you're rewarded. If you do bad things, then you're punished. That's how the world was supposed to work, according to the pre-Christian people. So that's, but that's still a question that we have, and maybe that's a question you have, and it challenges your faith. It challenges the things that you've been taught in church all your lives. Or maybe you have friends. They have different beliefs. They're of a different religion, or they're not of a religion at all. Two of my best friends growing up are both very much atheists. Well, I'd say one of them is more agnostic, but that is a fine distinction that I can have that discussion with you guys later if you want, but I'm not going to go into the whole difference up here. But the heart of it is, one of them, no God. One of them, there might be a God. I don't know. It's not something I really want to mess with. That's kind of how they live. And it was hard growing up because I've always been at least open to the idea of, okay, there's God, and he has charge of my life, and Jesus died, and I always knew that kind of stuff growing up. So it was kind of hard having one of my best friends be like, no, none of that is true. I was like, it's true. Nope, no, it is, it's true. Or maybe you're just sitting there like, my faith has never been shaken. I don't see that you cannot throw anything at me that is going to make me question my faith. And that would be wonderful, and I hope that that is true. I really hope that that is true, that you never have a reason to question your faith. But I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that it won't happen, because it's going to happen. There's going to be things that you're going to face in your life that are going to make you question. There's something out there that's going to make you question what you believe and why you believe it. We've all been through it. Like, you can ask your group leaders. They've all had those moments. They've had those friends. They've had those questions. Something has come at them and it's made them go, okay, but why do I believe this, and am I right? Is this actually what is right? And it may sound weird for me to be up here telling you guys, like, there are going to be these questions and you're going to question your own faith. But going to the Bible, like, they talk about that. The Bible knew, the people that wrote the Bible, and God knew when he was writing it, that we were going to have these questions, and there was going to be times in our lives where we were going to have to really look at why we believe the things we believe and what is it we actually believe. And in the book of John, which is one of the four Gospels, and the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the four Gospels, they're pretty cool because they're first-hand accounts of Jesus' life on earth. And I think that's pretty cool, because that's a unique perspective that nobody else has been able to give us. It's a first-hand account of the things that Jesus did while he was on earth. While he was doing his ministry, while he was teaching, while he was healing, while he was doing all these miracles. Like, this is the actual people who actually saw this stuff being done, and they wrote it down, and it's been passed down to us. And I think that's really cool. So in the book of John, it talks about this blind man who had been blind since he was born, and nothing that modern, quote-unquote modern at that time, medicine could do could heal him. And as I mentioned earlier, the prevailing theory on why bad things happened was either you did bad things and you deserved it, or your parents did bad things. Like, that was the theory for why babies were born that were born blind or born without the use of their legs. Like, that was, oh, you must have done something wrong and you're being punished. And we know now, like, Jesus was like, no, that's not true. But getting back to this guy, he was blind since the day he was born. Had never seen a day in his life, and one day he meets Jesus, and Jesus tells him, put this mud on your eyes, and then wash it off, and then all of a sudden he was able to see, right? So there's this blind man. He's never been able to see, and now he can. So we're going to jump in at that point. This is where we pick up with him. The neighbors of this man, says John chapter 9, verse 8, it starts, the man's neighbors and those who had formerly seen him begging asked, isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg? And some claimed that he was, but others said, no, he's not. He just looks like him. But he himself said, I am that man. And so they ask him, how were your eyes opened? And he replies, the man they call Jesus came to me and he said, put this mud on your eyes and then go to Siloam and wash. So I went and washed, and then I could see. So I think it's really important to pay attention to that first question they ask. They ask, how were you healed? I think that's understandable. That's pretty important. It's like, okay, well, you've lived this way your entire life. How are you all of a sudden able to see? And I think that's crazy, right? It's pretty understandable that would be their question. But I think it's even more important, look at his answer. He didn't answer, okay, this is how I was healed. I mean, he kind of does. But the first thing he answers is who did it? Who healed him? Because he knew, even more important than the function, how he was healed was the man who healed him. He knew that Jesus was the most important part of that story. But I guess that answer really wasn't good enough for him, so his neighbors went and got the Pharisees. And we've talked about the Pharisees. You guys are kind of familiar with them. They were kind of the know-it-all, like Jewish, like not really ruling class, but they were the learned people. They were the keepers of the law. They knew the law backward and forward. And they knew so much that they could not be wrong. So they went and got the Pharisees, and the Pharisees asked, it's like, okay, what have you to say about Jesus? It was your eyes that he opened. So the man replied, he is a prophet. They still they didn't believe that he was the blind man until they went and got his parents. And his parents were like, yeah, they said, is this your son? And is this the one you say was born blind? How is it now that he can see? So even with all the evidence, hey, this guy was blind, now he can see, Jesus healed him, they were really focused on the how. Because again, that's not how the world worked back then. In their eyes, that's not how the world worked. There wasn't just this guy who would go around healing people just for the sake of healing them. There was a structure to the world. That's not how the world worked. You did bad things happened to you, you were blind because you deserved it. So for somebody to come up and heal this man, it threw everything they knew about the world, not just everything they knew about this guy, but everything they knew about the world was put at risk. Because if this man didn't do anything to become blind and then didn't do anything to become able to see again, then their whole idea of how the world worked was very much put at risk. So a second time they summoned this man who had been blind, and they say, give glory to God and tell the truth. We know Jesus is a sinner. And before I continue, I think I laughed out loud the first time I read this verse, because this guy throws so much shade on them. Like, I know I'm old saying throwing shade. I don't even know if you guys actually say that anymore. But look at what he has to say. He replies, whether Jesus is a sinner or not, I don't know. But the one thing I do know is that I was blind and now I see. They were so focused on how he became able to see again that they totally glossed over the fact that this amazing thing had happened to this man. And they were so caught up in trying to catch Jesus in a lie that they ignored this wonderful thing. And kind of put yourselves in that guy's shoes. He experienced something amazing. His whole life changed because of it. And all these people were coming around, like asking him all these questions, and they were totally missing the point. They were totally missing the point. He's like, all these things you're saying, they may or may not be true. But what is important is I was blind and now I can see. Jesus is whatever he says he is. And it's great because he didn't tell the Pharisees, oh, I know everything about Jesus. I've learned his life story. No, he just said, I know what he's done for me, and that's enough. I think the same can be true for us, right? We may not be able to explain every single thing that happens to us, and we don't always have all the answers to the how. But it's just enough. While science can explain a lot, it can't explain everything, and especially the things that God has done in our lives. We have a lot of tough questions about science, about faith, about how the world works. But even if we don't understand everything, we can take hope and we can take faith in that we were built. Even if we don't understand everything, we can still follow God, because that is our purpose. That is what we were created for, is to follow God. Even if we don't understand everything about how the world works, we know who created the world. And sometimes that's a more important question. You'll go through your daily life, you'll go through science class, you'll go through all these questions about how, but we already know who, and that can lead us to the why. Why are we here? Why were we created? And when you think in practical terms, it's okay, so that blind man, that's great for him. He knows, okay, Jesus came, he healed him, that's great. Practical applications of science. He healed him, so now that man can see, and that's awesome for him. But what does that mean for us? Even like that man, the most important thing is the relationship with God. He was shown a very real, a very visceral reason for that. He was shown, hey, I can heal the blind. And he knew firsthand that Jesus could do what he said he could do. But we may not have that in our day-to-day lives. We don't have the miracles in front of us. But we can still learn that. We can still see that and take that we're here to have a relationship with God. And that's all that is trying to point us towards, right? So as we close up today, as we wrap up, just think about this. What is one step that I can take this week as I go through my week? I know some of you guys are still on fall break, or you're getting ready to go on fall break, or you're coming off of fall break. But what is one step this week that I can take to learn more about God? What's one step that I can take in my practical life to really learn more about God? And that could be reading the Bible more, it could be praying more, it could be talking to your friends or your small group leader about just the questions you have. But what is one step that I can take this week to learn more about God? I'm going to close us in a word of prayer, and then we'll break off into our small groups.
Hey, hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed so you're notified when we upload future videos. Have a great day.